Well, hello, hello, hello. You are listening to the No Brainers Empowering Possibilities Show. This is dialogues of encouragement with fresh perspectives, invitations to some ahas, a little bit of science, and a dash of behavioral psychology, but a whole lot of creative fun. So if leveling up is on your radar, my friend, you are at the right show. I'm your host, Roseanne Marsh, the author of the Teen and Parent Empowerment Curriculum, Level Up, and you are listening to episode number 8, The Parable of the Pantry Moth and Other Layers of Messages All Around Us. Life can certainly take its twists and turns and hardships, and we can white knuckle through them and do our best to survive what besets our lives. But what if in the process of going through these experiences, we were able to discover a deeper meaning and learning to what we're going through? How would your life change if you were given a deeper perspective and maybe see that what was taken as face value was perhaps a metaphorical teaching to alert us or to awaken us to something different or something of even greater importance? How could that change your perspective about the things you're experiencing? And how could that aid you in your quest to become more aware and more empowered to handle life? Well, in today's episode, I want to share 4 ways to help you expand your learning and understanding of the hard trials of your life. And I want to share with you a story about a situation that happened to me that ultimately helped me to see that what I was experiencing at face value was only the tip of the iceberg in teaching, and the gold nuggets were only going to continue to come when I started to ask the right questions and get curious enough to ask, seek, and ponder on the messages that are all around us. So if you've not had a chance to listen to episode number 7, Messages All Around Us, I encourage you to go back and listen. That's probably one of the favorite podcasts that I've put out there so far. So it's a really good introduction to what we're going to be talking about today, and a great way to introduce you to the serendipitous world of personalized messages that are out there for you to see when you are awakened to the many ways that messages can come forth. My personal experience that I want to share with you is lovingly called The Parable of the Pantry Moth. 4 months into divorce, it was Christmas time, and I was trying to keep a semblance of normality for my children and my grandchildren. I was still planning Christmas parties, but underneath all of that holiday celebration was the fear of, how will I survive in the future? How would I take care of my boys that were then ages 11 and 14? I had left my corporate job 14 years earlier and had been teaching at a local university for several years, but I had now been home as a full-time mom for 8 years. Subconsciously, I did the only thing I knew how to do at that point. And I started filling my fridges and my freezers and my pantry just full of foods of all kinds. Now, it seems irrational now, my response, but with so much uncertainty for my future and not knowing how to even plan or respond, I wanted to at least make sure that our stomachs would be full. So each shopping trip, I came home with more cake mixes, more pasta, more pancake mixes, more syrups, and I was literally filling my pantry to the brim, the large pantry that was right off of my kitchen. Now, those joining me live are able to see photos of this beautiful pantry that I had. And you're going to see some visual pictures that may make you scream a little bit. And those of you who are listening to this on a podcast, you can jump on over to winwinwomen.tv and find the visuals that I'm going to show today. But I'll describe it so that you can get an image in your mind of what this was all about. This is a pantry. It was good sized storage room. It was about 15 feet long, 8 feet wide, and 10 feet high. And its walls were lined with these beautiful melamine shelves that could be adjusted every 2 inches just by the use of these small holes where a small metal peg could be inserted in. And so every 2 inches, you could move shelves all over. Now, to give you some perspective, there were over 3,200 peg holes in this pantry. So that's a lot of flexibility to arrange shelving. Now, imagine with me now, the top shelves of this pantry were full of pewter bowls, platters, entertainment centers with these intricate designs. And then every other shelf was bulging with sacks of foods, flours, pastas, honeys, mixes, canned goods. This pantry was full to the gills. So at Christmas time, I noticed that when I would go into the pantry, a few moths would start flying around. And my sister and brother-in-law, who were living with me at that time, while they were waiting for a home to sell, she said, you know, you better get on top of this. I don't think this is a good sign here. But I was so busy with everything. I wanted to get Christmas over. And then when January came, I thought, I've got to figure this out. And then the discovery. Oh my. Every pasta, every cake mix, every plastic bin was, and even rice was full of larvae, was full of moths, even peanuts that, you know, you have a peanut can and it has a plastic lid. And when you eat a couple, you put the plastic lid back on. When I'd open the plastic lid, moths would fly out. So in other words, the larvae had gotten in there, had hatched these eggs. And then when they had turned into a moth, they couldn't get out of the lid until I opened up the lid. Oh my gosh, it was disgusting. Even like the cake mixes, you know, you would look at a box that you think, okay, nothing's wrong with this. But when you would open it up, literally for the first time, pull out the sack, and down towards the bottom, there would be these larvae in there. It was insane. Like, how were they getting into all this food? Thousands of dollars of food had to be thrown away. And that was just the beginning of the battle. The canned goods, you'd peel off the labels and there would be larvae underneath the labels. All of those ornate, beautiful pewter plates and bowls and serving pieces with a magnifying glass. I was going through every single one of them and finding little larvae down in the designs. And then I'd clean them out and then I'd put them outside. It was wintertime, of course, and very cold here, just in case they hatched. And they were hatching, continuing to hatch. Now, here's the thing. There were those 3,200 peg holes in the pantry for shelving. And I discovered that 75% of them were incubating larvae. Oh my gosh, do the math on that. How many holes were full of incubating larvae? I went on the internet to search for information. I called exterminators and they did not have a lot of hope for me. They said, you know, this is a battle of you're just going to have to continue to clean them out because really the insecticides that would kill the larvae won't kill the moths and good luck. Like, what? So I did find like these traps that I could put up and it would have a pheromone that it would go out and the males would fly in there, but not the females. So I was only trapping half of the species, but at least I was keeping those males from mating with the females. These were tiny little holes and they were going inside and laying eggs inside of each one of these little holes. My pantry was the Pantry Moth rec center of the year. Now, the only way I could get them out was to take a wood screw and I would insert it in the hole and twist and pull, and then the skewered larvae would get pulled out. I tell you, the first 50 that I skewered gave me drive heaves. But this was combat mission. I had to get on top of this. So as soon as I cleaned out those holes, and let me tell you, it took me days and days, I would tape up the holes so that more moths couldn't get in there and start incubating right behind me to lay more eggs. So I placed the pantry moth traps on the shelves, and it would be full of those male pantry moths continually. But I just kept going. Now, obviously, there was no food left. There was nothing left in this pantry. It was a bare bones pantry, and I was still catching moths. I started learning about the foods, especially the dry goods, cereals, pastas, mixes that come into our home, come in with these larvae in them. And the only way we can prevent them from hatching, literally, is when you bring the food into your home, is to put it in the freezer for several weeks before you even think about putting it in the pantry. And we figured out where the whole infestation had come from. I had a plastic bottle of popcorn kernels that I had bought from a big box store and brought it in. And it had been full of those larvae, and they had been incubating, coming out, and infiltrated the entire pantry. After I had cleaned and I taped up those 32 holes, and it seemed like the traps were not trapping anymore, I had exterminators come in, and we literally sealed off the pantry. They lit some sort of a bomb in there. We had to be gone for 2 days. We came back, and I even waited like an additional month after that. And then I wiped down all of everything. I wiped everything down. Everything was clean. And I was like, okay, we're ready to go back to life as normal. I think we've got it all. And the day that I was going to start moving all the food back in, I decided to test just a couple of those holes. So put a wood screw in and turned it, pulled it out. Oh my gosh, sure enough, the larvae were back. I was like, no, even the thermostat in the pantry had larvae growing in it. It was the most disgusting and overwhelming infestation I have ever experienced in my life. The skewering started all over again, and I swore that I would never untape those holes. And to this day, every single hole that is not being used for a shelf is still taped up. I eventually was able to move back into the pantry, but I have a trap in there that I monitor. So this is not just a story to educate us about pantry moths, but this truly was a parable. Because imagine I was going through a divorce, and I'm dealing with that, and I have kids that are acting out because they're losing their father, and I have a battle with moths happening in my pantry. And one day, I tried so hard to just valiantly go forward and battle the different things I was battling. But I remembered pouring my heart out to the Lord and asking, why did I need this during this rough time? Why did I need to be battling these moths during this time when life was pretty tough? And a clear answer came to me. Well, what happened here? I was like, what happened here? Well, my entire food storage was wiped out. Then a thought came, think, what really happened here? I thought, well, I brought a thing of popcorn in that was infested, and it infested the rest of it, but it took down the wheat, the cake mixes. I learned about how to prepare the foods now when I brought it in. And then I heard, think, what happened here? I thought, oh my gosh. I brought something into my home, and it took out everything that was good and nutrition in it. The only thing the moths didn't eat, pay attention to this one, was the sugar, because it had no nutrition. And then the thought came to me, what else have I brought into my home that could destroy what is good? And my mind immediately went to my son's iPads. And there was a game that they had asked me to download, and I hadn't investigated what that was. I immediately went to their iPads and I played the game. And I was shocked and mortified at the levels of the game. It was about stealing cars. It was about killing people. And if you had enough points, then you could go to the cat house at a certain level. And this was on my young teenagers' iPads. And I didn't even realize it was something that I had downloaded for them. The Pantry Moth now signified something else to me. But the story doesn't end there, because as with every metaphor, it's a gift that just keeps giving. I've continued to learn layers of understanding now from this trial and this message. And every time I see a pantry moth flying, oh, I pay attention and I start asking myself some questions. But what happened is that I made the parallel by studying out who the characters of this parable was. It was the moth. And as we know, moths are attracted to light. And this message came through to me. If you are searching for a deeper meaning in your life, which at that time, man, my life had been turned upside down. The light that you're looking for is inside of you, not outside of you. Your own inner light, your truth, your intuition, and higher self guide will guide you to the highest paths and the truest nature. These intuitive energies are feminine energies guided by the light of the moon. They touch the subconscious where your shadow resides. The feminine is all about listening and being receptive to the spiritual messages being sent to you right now. A moth showing up in your life lets you know that now is the time to tune into your intuition and use your own inner knowledge as a guiding light. Being still and introspective can allow you to access information that was previously hidden away. Meditation, journaling, and joining like-minded spiritual communities can be helpful right now. You may be distracted right now by matters that are taking you from your heart center and pulling you away from your true light. There may be artificial light that is pulling you off track. And a moth is here to give you the awareness to get back to your own center and natural light. Spiritually, moths do not bring bad luck. Their appearance is often to give warning about distractions in your life or to give you encouragement to keep taking steps forward in your spiritual path. They can represent the darker side of change, such as loss and endings. But there are always new opportunities to fill that void. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you the balm that was to be able to look beyond the fact that I had been battling these moths, only to know that they were a parallel experience to allow me to see what other things in my life were happening that I needed to pay attention to, but also to be able to deeper dive into the beauty of the moth and find out the reminder and the remembrance of look to your inner self for that light. This was such beautiful learnings for me at that time. And of course, I do periodically have a moth show up. And you can bet that I'm grateful. And then I start to think about what could that signify? Now, can you imagine if I had totally missed the whole significance of that battle, of that hardship? If this had only been a poor me, I can't believe that I had to go through literally almost 9 months of battling moths. Instead, what deep, rich meaning and significance that was, because not only did I start paying attention to moths, but there were so many other things that were happening in my life. And I had a chance to be able to deep dive into what could that mean? What is that learning? What is that teaching me? What's the parallel there? Can I guarantee that what you're going through right now has a message for you? Well, everything has a message for us. And we can say, wait, let's look at what the possible meanings could be. And we can ask and we can seek and we ponder. And it can be an amazing learning and come forth. Or we can say, no, it's just a hardship that I'm going through. But no, but let's say I place this apple in front of you, this red, juicy apple, and I ask you, what does this apple mean to you? Some of you may say, well, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, a saying that you've heard all the time. Or some of you may say, My grandmother made the most amazing apple pies. And I think of her every time I see an apple. Or some of you may think, well, that reminds me of Adam and Eve and the forbidden fruit that was eaten. Or maybe some of you think of Sir Isaac Newton that was hit on the head by an apple, allegedly. And that's when he was contemplating gravity. So just from me showing you an apple, there are lots of things that it can symbolize based on what you've learned from the past or what you've been exposed to. But this apple can also take on a specialized meaning for you as it relates to experiences that you are having. And then when it reappears in your life, it reinforces some of those learnings. So here's the amazing thing. When we're open to learning, when we are open to do some introspection, some questioning, and really staying curious, it's that Nancy Drew in all of us, the symbolism of the apple or any situation, we can start learning new learnings, expanded learnings, not just the things we've heard about or we've grown up with. So I want to share with you 4 ideas on how you can evaluate the unique circumstances and experiences that life is throwing at you. And see if it's my invitation, if you want to try these things, to see if you can get some expanded learning from what you've gone through. The first of all, number 1, see it for what it is. What's the situation and who are the players? And then learn all you can about the situation. For example, the Pantry Moth. I immersed myself into learning about why and how infestations can happen, and then how to prevent them. Because then that taught me a lot about the circumstances, the expanded circumstance that I learned about. Second of all, what does the situation parallel? Could it represent something else in your life? Is this a situation that is continually happening in one form or another? And here it is, yet another manifestation of that. And then why do you feel that keeps happening? And then what is your earliest recollection of that situation or that happening? So really deep dive into the parallelism of what you're going through. Number 3, what or who are the components, and what can you learn singularly about them? For example, I looked more into the significance of moths and their spiritual significance. And if this is related to people, what is significant about their role in their family or their position or their experience in life? What can you learn about them? And then the 4th one, and this is a really important one, ponder, journal, meditate, get still, and be open to insights, ideas, and learnings about your situation. Now, I want to put a plug in here for the science portion of this episode, because science really does play into everything. And that's this: if you don't believe that something exists, your mind believes you. And it can be right in front of your nose and you will never see it. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. If you don't believe that something exists, your mind is going to believe you, and it can be right in front of your nose and you'll never see it. So there's a lesson there. So example, have you ever had a child that you asked them to go get something, like go to the refrigerator in the garage, and on the second shelf, there's a couple of lemons, grab me a couple of lemons and bring them. And your son or your daughter is like in a bad mood anyway, like, wow, why do I have to be the one to go get them? And they begrudgingly go out there, and then they come back in, they go, I couldn't find them. They're not there. I'm like, no, they're really there. They're on the second shelf, and just grab a couple and bring. And they come back, they're not there. So you go out to the garage refrigerator with them, you open it up and you go, they're right here. They were right in front of their nose, but they couldn't see them. Okay, and let's be real. Have I just described something that happens to us every day? I'm trying to find something, I'm getting exasperated, and I'm thinking to myself, it's not here, I've lost it forever. And whatever my brain believes and perceives, it's that way. So if you look at life as straightforward, everything is just the way it seems, you will not learn because your brain will live up to its expectation. And even if the meaning is right there in front of your face, just like the lemons are on the shelf, you won't see it. So what does that have to do with science? Well, it has to do with the reticular activating system that's in the brainstem. That's the focus portion of your brain. That's the reason why you can be in this large auditorium and someone can say your name from the other side and you hear your name, because your brain knows your name is important to you and it pays attention to that and it catches it. It's a reason that you can have a growing interest on something and then you suddenly start seeing them everywhere you go. I give in one of the stories I tell in Level Up, Empowering Possibilities in this program, is in high school, I fell in love with a lime green AMC pacer. No, they don't make them anymore, and you'd probably have to look it up on the internet to even see what it looked like, but it was a passion of mine. I was like, saw this car, fell in love with it, my favorite color, and then I started seeing them everywhere. And I said to my friend, oh my gosh, did you see that the city has just been inundated with these lime green pacers? He goes, inundated? They've been here for years. Well, why did I just barely start seeing them? Well, I told my brain that it was important to me, and all of a sudden it started paying attention. So here is a huge tool. If we decide to learn from and attach some meaning to some of the difficult things that we are experiencing now or things from the past, then we have to tell our brain, we have to tell our reticular activating system that, hey, I'm open to seeing things from many different directions, and I'm open to learning new interpretations. It's like a permission slip to the subconscious that this is our new program. So getting ourselves in a teachable state is also really important. So not only do we have to let our brain have a permission slip, like, hey, we are open to learning new things, but we also have to be in a teachable state. If we're grumpy or angry or disgruntled, we won't learn things. Our state is a huge piece in helping us learn more, grasp more, and quite honestly, grow more. If we're curious and humble and hungry to learn, oh my, yes, the things we can learn are amazing. And it's interesting because we start to begin to see that life isn't being done to us. It's being done for us. So our invitation this week, I want you to do a deep dive on something hard that's happened into your life. Go back to those 4 different things that I mentioned. So are you interested in what to do if situations keep replaying in your life? Kind of like the movie Groundhog Day? Have you identified a repetitive behavior that keeps resurfacing in your life? As part of the learnings and empowerment in Level Up, Empowering Possibilities, it's a program for adults and teens. We teach how to stop the repetitive happenings in your life, and we bring in solutions and resolutions to things of the past that are maybe holding us back from really living a life of a creator. There are messages all around us, and it's up to our curiosity and permission to say, I'm ready to learn. I want to learn. It's an amazing journey that we're on. And sometimes those skills and tools we need are not difficult. Sometimes they're just no-brainers. Thanks for spending your time with me. And remember, we are all creators. So let's go out this week and create something amazing. Take care.